So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Donald Brown.
You honor me, but I really feel that I should be honoring you for your outpouring of love over these past few days. This weekend has been nothing less than extraordinary. Indeed, it's the epitome of excellence. And now you recognize me with this, the first annual Dr. Donald Brown Luncheon. What else can a man possibly ask for? Pastor McClendon mentioned yesterday at the gathering that it resembled heaven, that it was a glimpse of the eternal. It was a wonderful affair. Looking at you today, that's how I'm feeling. These past 72 hours, I've gotten a glimpse of heaven, as only heaven can be like this. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. The co-chairs Maureen Seabig and LaDante McMillan, to the stalwart Nicole Joseph, to Ashley and Leah, my guides over these last 3 days, and indeed to the entire executive committee, to Yannette Sano, to the members of the Black Student Forum, to advisors, my dear, dear friend Dan Bunch and Carl Bell, to my pastor, Reverend Howard McClendon, to the Ahana Leadership Council, and to all of the current and former Boston College students and their families, to my office of Ahana Student Program family, to my dear friends and colleagues at McGuire Associates, to my office of Ahana Student Programs family, to Darrell Peterson, and to all of my friends who are part of the faculty, staff, and administration of Boston College, to my brother of Concerned Black Men, to my brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and to my own family, the Wilkinsons, the Murrays, the Spantons, and to all of you who have come out this afternoon, again, I thank you from the bottommost part of my heart. I want you to know that I'm deeply humbled by this acknowledgement and have placed it in a special part of my heart and will most assuredly take it to my grave. That students, most of whom have never met me, nor have I met them, that you've made a decision to acknowledge me makes this tribute all the more special. And again, words do not adequately describe the gratitude that I'm feeling. I want to take this opportunity as well to publicly thank one of the greatest men that I've ever met. He's not in the room today, but that's the Reverend J. Donald Monin, now Chancellor at Boston College, during my years the President of Boston College. He gave this young man, and I was young when I first came aboard, the opportunity to work at Boston College. And I want to thank my friends in the Office of Ahana Student Programs, whom I worked with for so many years, for allowing me to, Joanna, be a part of your life. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please know that if I have made any mistakes, and I certainly did along the way, they were mistakes of the head, but certainly not of the heart. So forgive me for any wrongdoing that may have occurred. I've been given a charge to speak to you briefly about the theme that the Black Student Forum selected for the weekend, and the theme is entitled Black Excellence, Redefining, Reclaiming, and Redoing. And as I thought about the theme, I thought it was fortuitous that you would choose it as a topic because it reverberates throughout our nation. Indeed, as campuses become increasingly more concerned about diversity or the lack thereof, one of the things that they're discussing more and more is inclusive excellence. Simply put, What campuses are saying is that in the spirit of diversity, they want to see students of color enroll, persist, and receive scholarships, fellowships, and graduate at the same rate as white students. This, my friends, is eminently doable. But if it is going to happen, students, much of the work will have to be done by you. And I will come back to this a little bit later on. In the meantime, I'd like you to consider with me these realities. While the enrollment of black students in higher education has shown significant improvements over the past 25 years, the most important statistical measure of how black students are doing in colleges and universities is in the numbers that persist and graduate. And here, my friends, is the problem. According to data from the Department of Education, the 6-year graduation rate of black students in higher education is 43%. This is 20 percentage points below that of white students. The only good news here is that in the past 3 years, the graduation rate has increased by 3 percentage points. Over the years, the graduation rate has remained pretty flat, 35, 38, 40%. So there's a problem. The news is equally sobering at the community college level, where only 15% of all students who enter community college with a goal of earning an associate's degree finish within 6 years. As you know, the numbers of black and Latino students attending community college is on the rise. There is a problem there. On a more uplifting note, the high school graduation rates across the country is increasing. About 72% of public school students from the class of 2008 graduated on time, a 6 percentage point increase from the 1997 rate, and a 3 percentage point increase from the 2007 rate. The reported graduation rate is the highest it's been since the 1980s. The disconcerting aspect to this news is that black high school students still lag behind their white counterparts by 20 percentage points. To give you some sense of the magnitude of this problem, in 2 major cities alone, Los Angeles, where I live pretty close to, and in the city in which I was born, New York, more than 35,000 students dropped out of high school in 2008. We have a problem. As I think about these disconcerting realities, dear friends, I'm reminded of Charles Dickens's familiar frame in his book, A Tale of Two Cities, wherein he says, "These are the best of times, and these are the worst of times." Clearly, this holds true in the black community. We have made strides, but to paraphrase Robert Frost, we have miles to go before we sleep. It seems to me, as my little sister Pearl Wilkinson, who's in the audience today, pointed out to me last week, what we need in the black community is a revival. Indeed, many of our issues could be addressed simply by recalling, examining, and more importantly, acting on the examples set before us by so many of our ancestors who, while experiencing innumerable odds, decided that the pursuit of knowledge would not only enrich their lives, but the lives of others. I thought I would share with you a few examples of some of those who came before us, despite starting with little, who were able to accomplish great things because of their focus on excellence. You've not heard the names of these folk, and I wish that I could share with you a plethora of names, but I just chose a few. George Washington Henderson, Born a slave in Clark County, Virginia, was illiterate when he arrived as a teen in northwestern Vermont at the end of the Civil War. Perhaps working as a servant of a Vermont resident he met during the war, Henderson spent the next 8 years being tutored and was admitted to the University of Vermont in 1873. While in school, he worked as a farmhand. In 1887, he graduated from the University of Vermont, first in his class, and was inducted into the school's Phi Beta Kappa chapter. He later received a bachelor's degree in divinity from Yale University, spending a career in academics and in theology. Paul Robeson, born on April 9, 1898 in Princeton, New Jersey. Paul Robeson was the youngest of 5 children. His father was a runaway slave who went on to graduate from Lincoln University, and his mother came from an abolitionist Quaker family. Robeson's family knew both hardship and the determination to rise above it. His own life was no less challenging. In 1915, Paul Robeson won a 4-year academic scholarship to Rutgers University. Despite violence and racism from teammates, he won 15 varsity letters in sports, baseball, basketball, and track, and was twice named to the All-American team, All-American football team. He received the Phi Beta Kappa key in his junior year, belonged to the Kappa Skull Honor Society, and graduated as the valedictorian. Paul Robeson, a highly accomplished, distinguished singer and actor, was also spoke 17 languages. He was a linguist as well, and he's the president and wrote the class poem. Only half of the students who attended the school went on to college, but she did, becoming the first African-American woman to attend Middlebury College in 1895 and the first in the nation to be inducted again into Phi Beta Kappa. When Nettie died, there was a statement in her Bible which said, "Nettie Anderson broke many barriers for women and blacks." One scholar described her as a believer in moral existentialism, one who wanted to lift up her race and improve the conditions for women. She Boston College through the Options Through Education program and did well throughout her undergraduate years. She was an RA and an AKA, and she decided that upon graduating, she would attend law school. Sardina has 4 children, all of whom attended schools in Springfield, Massachusetts. Her oldest son, Carl, 11 years old, attended a charter school and was bullied repeatedly by fellow students. Distraught, Carl came home one day and committed suicide. Sardina's response to Charles's death has been nothing short of extraordinary. She has become one of the nation's preeminent spokespersons for anti-bullying legislation. She has spoken at the White House, at state houses, and conferences and workshops throughout the United States. Some of you may have seen the Walker family as they were recently featured on Extreme Makeover Home Edition, or I might have it backwards. Home Edition Extreme Makeover. She was there a few weeks back. I'm not going to say months back, a few weeks back. Sardina Lynn Walker. Anthony Benjamin entered Boston College through the Options Through Education program and did very well in the 3 courses that he took over the summer. During the academic year, Tony didn't fare well, at no point exceeding a 2.2 grade point average. The future looked bleak for this pre-med major, but he decided that he would realize his dream of becoming a doctor. And so he started all over again in a post-baccalaureate program at Columbia University. On completing the program, Tony enrolled at the Hahnemann University Medical School in Philadelphia. He was not accepted for the first or the second time, but on the third attempt, he made it in. He was accepted. Tony completed medical school and went on to complete his residency at a hospital in upstate New York. Today, Tony Benjamin is Dr. Tony Benjamin with a specialty in urology. When I think of Dr. Benjamin's story, I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes by the late journalist and social reformer Jacob Riis, which says, "When nothing seems to help, I go and look at the stone cutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet, at the 101st blow, it will split in two, and I know it was not that blow that did it, but all that had gone on before." Michael Gaines entered Boston College through the Options Through Education program. He was good. He was a good student, but not a great high school student. During the summer, his mom, who a few weeks earlier had given birth to Michael's little sister, suddenly passed away. As a tribute to his mom, Michael, an arts and science major, decided that he would excel at Boston College, and he did exactly that. As he approached graduation, Michael thought that what he really wanted to do was enter the business arena, and after working for a while, decided to apply to the Harvard Business School. He was accepted, excelled, and earned a Harvard degree. When I heard about Mike last, he is in a very, very distinguished career at Merck Pharmaceutical. Dana Barrows entered Boston College through the Options Through Education program. Despite the pressures of balancing the duties of being one of the greatest athletes that Boston College has ever seen, they can be the best that they want to be if they just apply themselves. The unacceptable notion of mediocrity reminds me of something that Dr. Martin Luther King said to your parents and to me about 40 years ago, and it pertains to excellence. This is what Dr. King said: "One should seek to do his life's work as if God Almighty called him at this particular moment in history to do it. And he must do it with a sense of cosmic responsibility, no matter how small it happens to be. He must do it. He must do a little job in a big way. He must do an ordinary job in an extraordinary way. If you can't be a pine on the top of a hill, be a scrub in the valley. But be the best little scrub in that side of the hill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, then be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or fail. Be the best at whatever you are. If it falls to be your lot to sweep streets, sweep them like Michelangelo painted pictures, like Shakespeare wrote poetry, like Beethoven composed music. We must skillfully and intellectually prepare ourselves to live in an integrated society. Whatever you choose as your life work, do it well. Don't be content with sheer mediocrity. Do your job so well that nobody could do it better. Do it so well that all of the hosts of heaven and earth will say, "Here lived the man who did his job as if God Almighty called him at this particular moment in history to do it." Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Give him a round of applause. coming to an end, and it looks like we're on time. Because I got to dash out at about 5. So, looks like we're on time. My remarks would be incomplete if I left without offering you specific recommendations about how you might go about preparing yourself to be the best possible you. The first thing that I'd recommend to you, Boston College students, is to utilize each other. Indeed, each of you is strong in some area. Utilize your gifts and talents to help another brother or sister to succeed. Utilize the many services available to you at Boston College, beginning with your Office of AHANA student programs, which provide sound advising, counseling, mentoring, and most importantly, tutoring. Enroll in my dear brothers, Mr. Bunch's Learning to Learn course, where the focus is on note-taking, test-taking, time management, and study skills. Ensure that peer mentoring and tutorial programs are in place. Meet with those offices overseeing the Rhodes, Fulbright, Truman, and other scholarships, and discuss among yourselves what it is you need to do to prepare yourself for these honors. Encourage your friends, particularly those in the first couple of years, to request a Mays mentor and begin thinking early on about becoming one of the recipients of the Dr. Martin Luther King Scholarship, and may I add, the Dr. Donald Brown Award. While you're doing these things, friends, I'd like to ask that you commit, that you will reach down, that you would reach down to a younger brother or sister, because that's what successful people do. On this note, I'm thinking about another one of my daughters, who is to my right, and that's Farlone Toussaint, who sparked the Truth Initiative, has gone a long way towards helping young people be all that they can be. I'm also reminded of another initiative called Project 2000 that was started by Glenda Green and Jason Taylor and Dr. Martin Pierre, counseling psychologists. Notice that I've used their titles. I do so because I know that their strong commitment to service contributed to their academic success. The aim of Project 2000 was to have volunteers, primarily, though not exclusively, Black and Latino students, meet with elementary school students at the John Marshall Elementary School at least once a week in Dorchester. Occasionally, those students were brought to campus in an attempt to familiarize them with the campus environment and to discuss what they needed to do in order to be the very best that they could be. Their efforts were extraordinary during their tenure at Boston College. So I'm grateful to have you bear the name Brown. I'm glad to have you bear that name. I learned that they were going to be here this weekend, and I wanted them to join me in making the presentation to this year's recipient of the Dr. Donald Brown Award, a gentleman whom I've come to love over the course of the 72 hours that I've been here. So I'd like for Ronaldo Sutton to come forward, and would you receive him warmly as Friends, it's been said that the quality of a university is measured more by the kinds of students it turns out than the kinds of students it lets in. If this is true, then Boston College is not is not a good institution, but a great institution, judging from those that I've met this weekend and those who stand with me. Today we honor a very special young man, this year's recipient of the Dr. Donald Brown Award. I'm so proud of you, Ronaldo, because you, my son's roommate in the Options Through Education program, and his friend of 4 years, continues to do a marvelous job. Continues to do a marvelous job. I can't recount all of what Andrew wanted me to say to you. I will say that he is enormously proud of you and thanks you from the bottom of his heart for all that you did with him during his time at Boston College. He's enormously grateful to you for the example that you and Ivan, Kadeem, and his other friends experienced through you. So I called Andrew just before coming up here. I wanted you to know that he sends his words of congratulations and he loves you dearly. I'm reminded of a statement that is outside of the doors of a school in Long Beach, California. And the words come from Margaret Sanger. And the words are, enter to learn, exit to serve. I love those words because this young man has grown tremendously over his years at Boston College, and in the process of growing, as you can see by his bio, he has given so much of himself. I submit that the world is going to be a better place as a result of Ronaldo Silas Evans. And I'm just so very, very pleased this year that I could be here on Black Family Weekend to make the presentation to you. Enormously proud. And so we're doing this collectively. 2010 is going to pass it to 2011. They're going to pass it to me, and then I'm going to pass it